As you start working through calculus problems, you'll notice that you'll get partway through the problem and then all of a sudden you need your algebra skills to be able to complete the problem. One of those algebra skills that you'll run into quite often is factoring trinomials. In this lesson, you'll be able to factor trinomials into sets of linear factors. Right, I'm just going to dig right into the examples. The first one says x squared minus 7x plus 12. Our goal is to get it to factor into a set of linear factors. So what we would like our final answer to look like is a set of two parentheses. And just reminding you how to work the problem, since this is an x squared, our first set of parentheses is going to have an x and an x. And the way that I like to teach the problem, maybe a little bit differently than other people, I like to put a 1 right in front of the x squared, and I'm going to multiply it by the 12 that comes last. So 1 times 12 is 12. And then what I'm going to be thinking of is what times what would give me 12. So let's see, 4 times 3, negative 4 times negative 3, 12 times 1, 6 times 2, and I could keep going. But what I would like to do is look at which one of these choices, when I add the two factors together, would give me negative 7 as a result. And so if I look at these, I notice that negative 4 plus negative 3 would give me the negative 7. So those are the two numbers that complete my parentheses. Okay, and then if you were to work that, or in fact multiply it back out, you would get x squared minus 7x plus 12. All right, let's try another example very similar to the one I just did. Again, we're going to have two sets of parentheses, and then since this says x squared, we'll do x and x. Again, I always like to put a 1 in front, and we'll multiply the first coefficient by the last one. 1 times negative 15 is going to be negative 15, and then I think of some things. Let's see, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15, negative 5 times 3, negative 1 times 15, negative 15 times 1. And so again, I'm going to look at which one of those, if I were to add the two factors together, would give me a positive 2 as an answer. And I notice actually it was the very first one that I picked. Negative 3 plus 5 gives me that positive 2. So minus 3 and plus 5 are my choices for inside of the parentheses. All right, now you'll notice this one's a little bit differently because there's a 2 sitting in front of the x squared. We're going to start it in a similar fashion. And this is actually called, the method I'm going to be using is called the magic number trick. Some people do it a little bit differently, but I find this way quite helpful. What I'm going to do, since there's a 2x squared, instead of just putting x and x, I'm going to put 2x and 2x. But you'll notice if I were to multiply this back out to check it, it would not equal 2x squared, it would equal 4x squared. So since I introduced an extra 2, before I'm done with the problem, I'm going to need to divide out that extra 2. So I'm going to write that to remind myself that. Now, just like I did in the last problem, I'm going to take that first number times the last number. 2 times negative 15 will give me negative 30. And again, I'm just going to write me some choices. Let's see, negative 6 times 5, negative 5 times 6, negative 10 times 3, negative 3 times 10. I think I'll stop, because I'm looking for a positive 1, and I notice that negative 5 plus 6 will give me that positive 1. So I'm going to put minus 5 and plus 6. Now remember, when we started the problem, I need to divide out this extra 2, and I notice in the second set of parentheses, 2 will divide out of both parts evenly, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide the 2 into this part right here. So the 2x minus 5 is going to stay just like it is, and then I'll divide each part by 2 in the second part. 2x divided by 2 will just be x, and then plus 6 divided by 2 will be 3. So that is my factored expression now. Okay, I'm going to do one more like that with the magic number trick. 3x squared minus 13x minus 30. Again, we'll put our two sets of parentheses, and since there's a 3 sitting there, we'll put 3x and 3x, and since I introduced an extra 3, I do have to divide it out before I'm done. And then I'm going to take my first number times my last number. 3 times negative 30 is negative 90. And then think to myself, what times what will be negative 90? Let's see, negative 10 times 9, negative 9 times 10, negative 5 times, let's see, 5 goes into 90, how many times? 1, let's see, 5 goes into 90, 1, 18 times, there we go. I could have negative 18 times 5, and I think I'm going to stop right there, because if I'm looking for negative 13, negative 18 and a positive 5, if I add those two together, would give me negative 13. So minus 18 and plus 5. And then from here, I do need to divide 3 out of one of those factors. And I notice that that top one, 3 will go into both parts. So I'm going to divide 3 into both of those parts. So I'll get x minus 6. And then the second factor gets to remain the same. So that is what that looks like factored. So now hopefully you remember how to factor trinomials.